Coming up on this edition of Safari ChangeMakers.
At that time, there were poachers that were taking 25 to 40, and this is documented, 25 to 40 elephant bulls out of this area annually and selling the ivory. They didn't believe that there were people crazy enough to come here and pay money to look at an animal and not eat it.
This is Safari ChangeMakers. Conversations with Africa's most innovative visionaries, the guardians, pioneers, and trailblazers, offering solutions to the most pressing challenges facing the continent. Over-tourism, human-wildlife conflict, the climate crisis, and environmental degradation. Conversations that reveal bold strategies for sustainable tourism leading to economic opportunities for indigenous communities while protecting local ecosystems and wildlife. Here's your host, founder of Artisans of Safari, recognized by Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler magazines as one of the top travel specialists for Africa, Karin Jones.
I am here today with Clive Stockil and Katcha Kosdorf, the legendary founder and visionary CEO behind Chilo Gorge Safari Lodge in Zimbabwe's famed Gonarezhou National Park. For over 50 years, Clive has been one of Africa's original conservationists, honored with the Prince William Award for a lifetime of conservation. Clive, why don't you start by telling us where you are today and just a little bit about Chilo and the area.
Chilo is situated in the extreme southeast part of Zimbabwe, close to the Mozambique border. It's also located within the Mahenya community under Chief Mahenya, one of the minority cultures in Zimbabwe called the Shangaan. And they are unique, and it's part of the longer story with regards to their sort of history and their relationship with the environment that we managed to get this program going many, many years ago because of their history and dependence on a healthy environment. So they basically understood basic principles of conservation. Chilo is situated on the banks of the Savi River, which is the largest internal drainage system in the country. It's got a very beautiful view over the river. Obviously, a lot of wildlife come down and drink down below it. It's actually a spectacular venue at this time of the year. There's a lot of game there. As I speak, I'm about 2 kilometers from Chilo on the banks of the Savi.
So for people that don't know exactly how far Chilo and Gonarezhou are from, say, an area that maybe is a little more touristed like Victoria Falls, if we were to fly from Vic Falls to you, how long would it take to get there?
Okay, as I said, we are situated in the extreme southeast. Victoria Falls in the extreme west, northwest, so it's diagonally right across the country.
Yeah.
If we look at the capital, Harare, where a lot of planes will fly into, we're about 1 hour to 1.5 hours flight from Harare. Vic Falls is a bit further, so you're looking at 2.5 hour flight.
Yeah, I remember we sent clients last year, a family, and I believe they flew from Vic Falls and then at the end of the trip flew up to Harare to leave. So we were able to integrate this into their itinerary. So focusing first on the safari experience that people would have, what from a safari wildlife sighting experience and just sort of the natural wonders that draw people there on safari, what are they going to see there?
I think our specialities are is the Gonarezhou. It's the second largest national park in Zimbabwe. It's a relatively young national park. It was gazetted a park in 1975, and it went through some difficult times after registration. There wasn't much money from government being put into conservation or protection. But about 15 years ago, a partnership developed in the Frankfurt Zoological Society and National Parks, creating the Gonarezhou Conservation Trust, which now runs the park. And under that management, the park has seriously improved in terms of the anti-poaching effort is fantastic. Populations have really recovered very well. So it's a success story from that point of view. And I would say comfortably that Gonarezhou today is the best managed and run park in Zimbabwe. And I say that with all honesty, in terms of the amount of investment that's gone into it and the recovery that I've seen. And obviously my history, I've grown up here, I've known the park all my life. So I've watched it over the years, sort of the ups and downs and the challenges, etc. And there is no doubt that the park today, it's the best it's ever been. And hopefully that they can keep that arrangement with government so that they've got that control and management in the park. The activities we offer are basically game drives, and you can do a morning game drive, an afternoon game drive, or both, or you can do an all-day activity. One of the popular ones is to drive to the Chilo cliffs, it's an all-day experience. You leave in the morning, take a packed lunch, and drive up and have lunch up at the cliffs, and then drive back in the afternoon. That's very popular. That gives you a good overview of the landscapes within the park and the very different types of vegetation. One of the attractions of this park is its diversity. It's hugely diverse. It's the most diverse park in Zimbabwe in terms of landscapes, habitat types, which then will roll out in terms of bird species. You know, we've got probably one of the highest bird counts in Zimbabwe. We've got 450 species that we've identified over the last 40 years in the park.
How high are those cliffs so that people understand how amazing they are?
Okay, from the river that flows below, the Runde River, from that base, from the water, it's 200 meters to the top of the cliffs. 200 meters is probably just under 700 feet high.
Yeah.
And obviously not going too much into the geology of it, but that dates back to the Cretaceous era. So it goes way back, and it was deposited underwater, so it's all sediments, and that's why you get the layering and the different colors in the rock. So it wasn't created by wind deposit like the Kalahari sands in Wankie. This was deposited by water, and therefore a totally different geological structure. And I think it's pertinent to say that one of the big attractions of this park at the moment is the fact that it's what I still call old Africa. It is very primitive. It's underdeveloped and underutilized from a tourism point of view. And to me, it's a unique feature, particularly if you go to places like Kruger. Kruger's a wonderful park. I'm not knocking Kruger. For a lot of people, that's their favorite park. It's wonderful. But there's also a lot of people that are looking for something special. They're looking for something that is a little unique, off the beaten track. And I think Gonarezhou has a niche there that we can capitalize on. It is very wild and natural. With professional guides, we offer walks, tracking animals, interpreting the vegetation and tracks, etc. That's also quite popular. And then on the other side, because we are on communal land in a community area, and the interesting Shangaan culture, we also offer a cultural experience, which I think is probably one of the more natural ones. This is not a staged event. It's not a little constructed village that people come and perform, dance, and then everybody goes home.
Yeah.
Made an arrangement with a village where they actually invite our guests into their village, and you go and sit with them in their village, and you meet them, the wives, and they show you how they prepare their foods, and the father will explain a bit of history of the area, and also they're very good on medicinal use of medicinal plants. and they still use them a lot. That I can vouch for. And of course, it's very interesting when he comes out with the various plants and he sort of explains what they use them for. A lot of guests find that very, very interesting, and how they make salt, and how they hunt, and some interesting stuff there. So yeah, I think it's the sort of the various options in terms of activities is quite broad. From the cultural side to the hardcore tracking to the more sort of safari type vehicle drives. There's a lot of activities which I think folk really enjoy.
When I speak to operators who sell Gonarezhou, we often discuss, because visiting Gonarezhou forms part of a broader either Africa itinerary or Zimbabwe itinerary. And we always debate, should we put it in the beginning of the itinerary or in the end of the itinerary because of where it's located. It cannot be in the middle. It's always in the beginning or in the end. Often it's actually concluded it's better to have Gonarezhou in the end of the itinerary because guests are a little bit more sensitized to just sitting in the riverbed with toes in sand and watching elephants cross the river as the sun sets, and just taking it in and taking the fact in that there's no other vehicles crossing, that you may hear the villagers behind you, or even the fact to be open to having experiences that Clive just shared, whether it's in the homestead in the village or any other community experience that we offer, because so often guests come on safari and obviously they are thrilled to go and see their first lion, their first leopard, and it's all becomes about the actual safari and the drive. So coming to Chilo and having the last 3, 4, 5 days of your safari to really immerse yourself in a destination that doesn't rush you. There's no need to rush. And as also Clive mentioned, the diversity really also allows you to slow down and take it all in within one national park. So that's might be just to conclude from the experiences as in how to package Chilo in the broader itinerary.
I do think clients typically have their checklist of a few things that they really need to see and do. So I know that when I put the trip together for the family last year, they sort of challenged me. They wanted to do exactly what Clive said. They weren't sure that in Southern Africa that there even were places that were really old Africa or off the beaten track, over touristed, all of that. And the grandmother who planned the trip with us challenged me because she had been 20, 30 years ago to Tanzania on a very, very off the beaten track trip, and said, I just don't think there's anything probably like that. And I said, well, there is, but we also had her grandchildren who had never been to Africa and wanted to, of course, see that first lion and see all of that. So we actually did exactly as you said. We did something in the Sabi Sands and the Greater Kruger first, where they sort of were able to check off all the animal species, and they had a great experience there. Went to Vic Falls and then flew out to you and spent that time. And I think we're really able to immerse in the experience. And she also really wanted them to have cultural experiences that were authentic. That word that's used a lot from the photos, which people will see. They certainly did do just that. So I think that's one of the ways to put Chilo in within an itinerary. And we've also had other clients go to Chilo who just did Zimbabwe, people who were very, very well traveled and just doing a trip in Zimbabwe, combining Chilo with like Mana Pools, Wangi, Vic Falls, Gonarezhou, maybe even Matopos, and really just doing a really deep fully Zimbabwe experience. So I think both of those can work, right, with you. So moving on to talking about a little more about the community engagement and the human wildlife conflict. What actually was happening in the past, Clive, where the wildlife and the community who are there were in conflict, and how did you work with the community to protect both the wildlife and the community, and then does this story get told to the guests and help tourists to understand this better, I think, throughout Africa?
This project started as a result of conflict between the community and a national park. After independence in 1980, folk in the communal areas, they wanted to move back into the park, which is their traditional home. They were evicted out of the park only 15 years before independence. So there was still a lot of fresh memories as to that was their land. So when independence came, it was obvious they wanted to move back, and this created conflict. During that time is when the park was declared a national park. So from a political point of view, moving back was no longer an option. So the community then seriously got stuck into increasing poaching because they felt that they were going to benefit from the park one way or the other. And it was as a result of that, I was then requested by the Director of National Parks to mediate between parks and the community. And that was based on the fact that I've grown up here and I speak the language fluently, and I have the sort of trust of the community. And but it was a tough call. There was a lot of aggro. There was a lot of anger on both sides. In fact, I can say that even after independence in '80, the national parks and this community were still at war. I mean, they were still shooting each other. They were still. It was nasty. We started this program where we said, moving back to the park is no longer an option. So what we got to do is look at how can we get the community to benefit from wildlife so they see it as an asset, not as a liability. And that was the beginning of CAMPFIRE, the program, CAMPFIRE, which the acronym for Communal Areas Management Program for Indigenous Resources. That all started here in the early 80s. And slowly but surely, we started creating some benefit from wildlife. And the first revenue that came in through the CAMPFIRE program built the first 2 classroom blocks in the school. And that was a huge, huge boost. And that started changing attitudes. And it grew from there. But obviously, CAMPFIRE started on the principle of consumptive use. I think it has to be told. The story was the fact that at that time, there were poachers that were taking 25 to 40, and this is documented, 25 to 40 elephant bulls out of this area annually and selling the ivory. When we started this program and we were able to negotiate with parks that the community could benefit from 2 elephants, we pretty much put a stop to the poaching. So in a sense, we actually saved a lot of elephants from being poached on the basis that the benefit of 2 elephants went to the community, and it built the school, and they got some cash dividends into their pockets. They paid school fees with it. And this really is what turned it all around. To achieve conservation goals and objectives, certainly in Africa, you cannot ignore the fact that there are people. Unless you get people involved with your conservation objectives, you're going to fail. People will win. And this exercise clearly proved to me a lesson which I've never forgotten, and that is, if you've got conservation objectives, make sure you've got the community on board. So deal with the community issues, then come back to your conservation issues, and you'll succeed. The fundamental thing was to recognize the fact that the people needed to benefit from natural resources. If people don't benefit from the natural resource, it becomes a cost. And that's what they were saying. because what would happen is that they would grow their corn, plant it, look after it, spend 3 months in cleaning it and making sure that it's all fine, and it gets to the point where you're just about to harvest it, and in one night a herd of elephants come in and destroys your entire crop. So now you've got 9 months to go without any food to feed your family because the elephants have eaten all your crops. So they're saying that's a cost. And you know what it is? It's his elephants. It's Parks' elephants that are eating our crops. So that's why we don't like Parks. Parks, take your elephants away. If you don't take them away, we're going to eat them. And when we eat them, then you send us to jail because you call us a poacher. But all I'm trying to do is protect my family and feed my family. So, it was fundamental to say, right, how can we bring benefit to you from wildlife? And that's how it started. The principle was create benefits for the communities. Let them see a benefit. The classroom was a tree, and they'd scraped the bark off and they'd painted the wood green, and that was the blackboard. And the kids sat on the ground. So when the first benefits from wildlife came, the community said, we want a school for our kids. And we built the first double block of the classrooms. And that came from year one of the program. And when the community saw that, their whole attitude changed. The revenue from that was based on a small quota, so it was limited. The community needed more. And the pressure to move back was still great. So, the way I put it to them was that when you have a field which you cultivate, you don't go and live in it. You'll have a field apart from your village, cultivate it, and you'll go and work it and then come back to your village. But you'll harvest the village and you'll benefit from it. Why don't you look at the park as a field? The field there is wildlife. And you can benefit from the wildlife. But this time, it's not through consumptive use. It's actually through non-consumptive use, and that's through tourism. Of course, when I mentioned it, there were smiles and a lot of sort of discussion. They didn't believe that there were people crazy enough to come here and pay money to look at an animal and not eat it. So it was difficult to persuade them that was an option. Anyway, this is one way that we dealt with that need to move back into the park, and also to increase, on top of the small quota of 2 elephant, additional revenue from non-consumptive tourism. And I realized then we were at the end of the road. There's no other tourism facility this side of Zimbabwe. Internationals, if they look at Zimbabwe, it's Victoria Falls, it's Kariba. It's a little bit of the monuments, the Great Zimbabwe Monuments, the Matopas, places like that. Southeast Lowveld wasn't a tourism destination. So, we had a huge challenge to try and put this on the map initially to get this to work. So I realized it was going to be a big project. So I wasn't personally in a position to do it all. So I went and partnered with the then Zimbabwe Sun Hotels. They came in and we did a joint venture on a 50-50 basis, and we built a small lodge on an island in the river called Mahenia Island Lodge, and we started there. But it was 16 beds, small, and the critical mass just didn't make sense. The arithmetic didn't work out. The cost of getting here, 16 beds, your overheads were high. So we needed to expand, and that's when we brought in Chilo, and we built up to 50 beds. And that became sort of a viable unit. And it worked very well during the 90s. 99, I went to the World Travel Market, and we had already about 60% confirmed bookings for 2000. It was really taking off. We had the airstrip, planes were flying in, we had regular schedules coming in. And it was a success until the land reform hit. And of course, we had 98% cancellations in a month. I mean, it set us right back to the sort of the beginning. And that was the beginning of a long stretch. But to get back to involving the communities, it's a lifelong challenge that requires a lot of patience and a lot of dialogue and communication. And the key is to build trust. You have to build trust. They mustn't see that it's a one-sided thing. And of course, for the past 40 years, the focus has been on building this coexistence between wildlife and humans. And the focus has been persuading the communities to tolerate elephants, to share their space. That's been the message. Well, we've reached a situation now where that program, and I can say this honestly, here for the Mahenya community, has become too successful. We've now got too many elephants that are in the villages every night. Tonight, there'll be 300 elephants wandering around amongst the villages. That's in addition to the community conservancy, which surrounds Chilo, which is communal land, which has been set aside by the community for wildlife. That's in addition to the elephant that are in that conservancy. These are elephants that are outside in amongst the villages. So we've gotten to a stage now where I can see it because I've lived with it for 40 years. I can see that it's become too successful. And we've actually got a challenge that unless we start looking at trying to balance the human needs and try and understand that there's got to be a balance, that the community may get to a point where they say, listen, this is no longer sustainable, and you either fence us out, take them away, because we can't look like this any longer. That's a reality, I'm being honest.
Are they eating their crops and doing all the stuff that elephants do?
When there are crops, right now, it's the end of the winter, so there are no crops, but there's a lot of vegetation, whereas the park at the moment is very dry. So therefore, the food source in the park is less than during the rain. And of course, the vegetation on the communal land sides hasn't been that impacted. So there's an attraction for elephant. What we've got to do now, and I believe we can. I think we're in a process. We've been successful in getting the coexistence between the people and the wildlife. We've now got to balance that to make sure that it's sustainable. And this is where tourism comes in. And I'm a staunch supporter in terms of promoting tourism where communities are part beneficiaries in the longer term, because without the community's support, buy-in, and cooperation, a lot of these conservation initiatives surrounding protected areas, national parks, are going to take a strain and may even collapse over time. And that is a reality. So what we've got to do is, the challenge is on all of us. And I'm talking about those in the tourism sector, and I'm talking about guests who are contemplating on coming to Africa. It's great to go to places where it's like a big zoo and you can see everything in 24 hours. You can tick the big five off in 24 hours. That's great. That's an experience. But for those that are really interested in sustainable conservation and long-term benefits to wildlife and the environment, these community programs are going to become key to the survival of national parks and protected areas. And what we've got to do, and this is when I say we, this is the park managers, governments, operators, tourists, and also the agents, to promote destinations that have a strong community component which benefits the wildlife, because that way you're making a contribution to sustainable tourism, sustainable conservation.
I think, if I may add to that, Karin, and I think Clive has really eloquently explained the challenges, the successes that we have, but the challenges is, that we find ourselves in is what I always feel we in the tourism industry, the operators, the agents, the wildlife, the environment, and the communities are our assets. It's what we sell. It's what an agent makes money off. And we coming back to this word sustainable. And sustainability means that it continues to exist. So any tourism business is only going to keep making money if the product still exists. So if we continue only to promote areas where you have your bucket list tick and where the community involvement and engagement is minimal, those are not going to exist forever. So it is, again, it's a sustainable practice. It's a sustainable business choice. So we're not just talking about sustainability when it comes to what do I do with recycling and water use and all of that. It's also honestly sustainable business choices. How can I make sure this still exists, this experience still exists in future? And also understanding that things may change. What I've maybe sold 10 years ago is maybe also not what the client is looking for or should be looking for, quite frankly, today or in 5 years' time. And that's also very well explained by Clive. Obviously, he's fully in the topic. What the things that we may have done 10 years ago and 15 years ago might not be the choices we will be making today or tomorrow in conservation efforts, but that's what it's all about. It's constant learning, engagement, patience, conversations, and learning from things that went really well for a period of time, and then it might simply no longer work.
Well, so many questions came up for me with what Clive was talking about. One of them is, Clive, you're just one man, and you seem to be the crux of this 40-year conversation. And do you have others that you've brought in? Do you have younger people that, will be able to carry the torch for you and continue these conversations with the community? Because, there's a lot of trust involved and a lot of problem solving and just the many years of experience that you have. Like, who's going to keep it going?
I hear what you're saying, and it's a good question. I firmly believe that programs of this nature and importance should not depend on an individual. The long-term challenges and benefits and costs can't depend on an individual. My drive at the moment is to try and build capacity with 1 or 2 champions in the village, in the community, and to start selecting young, educated people who can understand and who can develop the passion, because it's not something that you're born with. You've got to develop a passion and an understanding of the long-term challenges, etc. So a key component is to get a few members of the community to take ownership of this and become passionate about it, and they've got to have mentoring and assistance. But it's a big program, and I think that there's got to be multi-stakeholders that are involved in this, and this is where operations like Chilo, it becomes critical. Chilo will be there tomorrow, long after I'm gone. Chilo will be there. So Chilo's footprint has got to be firmly established as a key stakeholder in the sustainability of a program like this. The park management, the conservation trust, they're an entity, they're an institution. It's not the general manager that is going to be there in 10 years' time, but GCT will be there in 10 years' time. So these institutions have got to become partners in this program. And if you can get a strong partnership between some key players, private sector, the public sector, and the community, and within there you have 2 or 3 champions that get the passion and can carry this forward, that is now sustainable. It mustn't depend on an individual.
The other question that I had was, you talked about being so successful that the elephant population has really grown. So what is the solution to that? Is it fencing? Is it culling? What is it?
We had a workshop 2 days ago here at Jamanda with the community, and in fact USAID sponsored it, this particular meeting, and these are the questions that are being debated at the moment as to what to do. One of the options is to actually apply for a live capture permit and try and sell live elephants. Move them.
Yeah.
The problem is that there's really few places that need elephant, and destinations is a problem. And then, of course, the funding, to find someone who's prepared to pay for them, because the community must be rewarded for producing it, because it's their product. They sell their cows. Why can't they sell the elephant? Did you hear that? That is elephant shouting behind me. They're screaming just behind us here. that's one option. The other option is and it'll divert the discussion here, but why I'm working on this project here is actually an experiment to see if we cannot develop small food producing units at village level, utilizing solar energy and water from the river to produce food sustainably. The solar panels will provide energy to keep the elephants out of the crops, and that's what I'm doing here. And if I can develop a model here where we can sustainably produce 3 crops a year on a piece of land, just 3 or 4 hectares, will be a lot to feed a lot of people. And then have small units along the river with corridors so that you're not preventing cows from going to drink in the river or elephants coming to visit the villages. They still want that. They don't want to exclude them, but we reduce the gaps so that you restrict their movements in. So now you reduce the pressure. You're creating sustainable agriculture and food production. I think there's a possibility that this may provide part of the solution. And the community are quite interested to sort of monitor and follow this little model that we're working on here. I'm not saying it'll work. I'm the first to say it may fail. It's worth a try.
Gonarezhou obviously forms part of a Greater Limpopo Transfrontier conservation area. And these transfrontier conservation areas obviously are borderless. So it's about creating corridors and bigger areas for wildlife to roam. So that becomes part of the solution. As Clive says, there's not one solution, but creating those corridors. And now that Gonarezhou has established and has been really well and successfully managed to extend that area into the bordering other countries and the Mozambican side of that national park or conservation area. So to just simply increase the area that where elephants may roam, but it requires that site to be as well managed, as well protected, the vegetation to be looked after, because wildlife only goes where there's food, right? And where they're safe.
We'll be back with more Safari Changemakers after this.
Safari Changemakers is brought to you by Artisans of Safari. Beyond the map lies adventure. With nearly 40 years guiding travelers into Africa's hidden sanctuaries, we craft journeys as individual as your fingerprint. Expertly designed, deeply personal. Connect with Karin at artisansofsafari.com for your collaborative consultation. Your safari, your story. Artisans of Safari.
From our standpoint, being able to send more guests your way, because I think that's part of the recipe here for what you're trying to do. That's our part in it, right? Is to send guests and then also to send the right type of clients. What are some of the right types of clients? It's not just one type, right? We sent a family. I think they were the right type. That's what they wanted. I sent a couple who had traveled many times to Africa, who are really interested in getting deeper. What kind of clients do you see that are coming there? And how long are they staying? And what is the right amount of time to really enjoy it? And how many Americans are you seeing? So I'm just interested in the clients a bit.
I would like to challenge us to potentially consider to not stereotype our clients that much, because we often say, oh, this is a first-time destination, this is not a first-time destination. But why not? Who has decided that long time ago that that's the case? If people say, well, I want to see the wilds of Africa, why is a more established or manicured national park the first place to go to? So I would just like to challenge our thinking in that way. And hence, obviously, we see a lot of international tourists, a lot of Americans, Europeans, from Germans to Belgium, Switzerland. Pre-COVID, there was also a number of Australians that I saw on the booking sheets. Essentially, any client who's interested in exploring Africa, in conservation work and community work, and breathing wide open spaces and learning about different cultures, about different feelings when you're on safaris, and who are passionate about exploring the world, they should come.
So do you think that that we as safari planners play it safe and sort of pick those easy places that either we know, or not necessarily, even if we know about Gonarezhou, we might just think it's not for everybody, so we sort of play it safe? I think the key is how do we explain why we're sending them there?
You know your clients. There are some clients who want a specific whiskey in the evening, who need the aircon. They don't want dust on their faces. So you do know your client, essentially. I'm just like, sometimes we can challenge ourselves and can challenge the client a little bit further, asking, how often are you really going to plan to go to Africa? Do you really want to have the safe experience, or would you like me to do something else? So I'm not saying throw everything that we have done overboard and just give them the wildest experience, because who cares? So you know your client. But we are selling emotions, we are selling smells, we are selling feelings, we are selling, or we invite people to experience a different world. So how do you sell something that a client has never seen, felt, smelled, experienced? Once they have been to Gonarezhou, everyone wants to come back. It's like, this is one of the best things I've ever experienced. I always say there's only 3 types of clients. Either they've never heard of Gonarezhou in their lives, then there's the category who've heard of Gonarezhou, have seen the pictures, and it's on their bucket list right on top there. And there are clients who have been, and it's like, this is the best thing I've ever done, and I want to go back. There's only those, the 3 categories. Take the time to get to know it, whether it's through this video conversation, listening to the story and getting inspired. And if you have time, come and see it for yourself, because we all know we best sell something or can sell an emotion when we've actually experienced the emotion. It's a little bit like empathy. You can only be empathetic once you have gone through hardship yourself. So it's a little bit of the same concept.
And then likewise, there's probably the wrong client, right? You know, there are, I think the lodge itself is maybe more on the rustic side, right? And so there may be those clients that are really looking for that very slick, super high-end safari lodge. They do want the wildlife and they want the beauty, and there's other places that we can send them that will tick the high-end luxury box and safari, and they'll be very happy there, and they just might not be the right client for Chilo.
In Chilo and in Gonarezhou, you won't be in a bubble. You will be part of the community. You will be part of the staff. You will be part of the wildlife. It's you don't have that safe bubble experience. You're really in it. So you're right. If there are the clients that they just want to feel it a little bit safer, a little bit more protected.
And they want their specific luxuries, you know, that very, very high-end luxurious lodge feeling. I just want to make sure that we've definitely touched on how clients are experiencing and understanding the work that you're all doing there. So the wildlife and the community, I mean, to me, that seems like the key to being there and really understanding the experience.
My experience with the guests over the years is that from your point of view, you need to ensure that they explain to you what they want. You don't want to try and sell them something that they're not going to experience when they come here.
Yeah,
they must know exactly what we offer. They must know exactly what the activities are, but highlighting what I think is unique with us, and the uniqueness with us is simply it's an authentic traditional cultural experience with a very interesting tribe, which is one of the minority groups in Zimbabwe. It's not the main tribe in the country. This is a remnant of the Nguni tribe that came down on the east coast of Africa many years ago, and they've got a unique approach to the environment, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn from them. But to put them into an authentic situation, contact with the community, is special. I don't know of many other places that do it this way and try and stage it.
Yeah.
And then on the wildlife side, I think we've got our elephant are spectacular. We've got brilliant elephant viewings, and a lot. People will be very satisfied with the viewings. Right now, we've got a good population of wild dogs. We've had beautiful viewings this last week. There's 2 packs operating down here and one up by the cliffs. So the dogs are being seen regularly. Plains game, we've got a great diversity. It's the only park in Zimbabwe that you will be guaranteed to see species like Inyala. There's no other park in the country will give you Inyala. And of course, the plains game, your zebras and the wildebeest and the eland, they're plentiful. Impalas are everywhere. The cats, we have a good population of leopards, a high density of leopards, and we're seeing them more frequently. Lion population needs to increase. We have got lion, and we're seeing them frequently. Thomas has just come back from a trip to the cliffs, and 2 days he had brilliant lion viewing. So it's getting better. There's no guarantee. I think they must understand, we don't guarantee them seeing the big 5 in 2 days.
Right.
The value is in the wildness, in a little bit of old Africa. This is becoming scarce. It's a scarce commodity these days. And to say you're not going to find too many places left in Africa where you can actually experience this wildness, and you're not competing with 100 other vehicles like you do when a lion sighting, you've got 50 vehicles parking up next to you. You know, you hardly ever see another vehicle here. To me, that's important, and that's valuable to me.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that is what people are hoping for and wishing for, and they're not necessarily, wanting to go to the Masai Mara and stand at the river with 400 vehicles waiting for the wildebeest to cross. I just wanted to go deeper than just telling about places that are off the beaten track. I think a lot of people go to Africa just thinking about wildlife, and it's through your involvement in the stories that they'll hear when they're at a place like Chilo, where they'll hear about the people's part in all of that as well. Typically, people come back remembering all the people that they met. Unfortunately, where it's really performative, where people come and just do a dance, or clients go in for 10 minutes, see a village and leave. It's just really hard to have a communication with the local people in a 10-minute visit, When clients are at Chilo and they go out to the Mahenya community, are they able to sit and talk? Or if people have a language barrier, is there someone that can help translate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much a hands-on experience. Each group that goes in will be going in with a guide, and I'm going to mention just now, I think it's necessary to say that Zimbabwe has become known for the quality of its guides. I think the guides in Zimbabwe are in terms of their understanding of the natural world and have the ability of being able to explain it to their guests. I think we are right up tops on that. But they will be going with the guests into the village, and they will be there to assist in interpreting, particularly when it comes to asking questions amongst the women. Very few women can speak English. Some of the adult men will speak reasonable English, which they can speak direct to.
Ideal stay, I mean, obviously 10 days would be great, right?
giving the context that you're providing, as in the American traveler who we know doesn't have a lot of annual leave that they can take. It's not like a European who's got 35 days annual leave to take.
Right.
Definitely not shorter than 3 nights. And I think like 5 nights is a real nice sweet spot. So we can combine the lodge with a more with an experience in the park as well. And you will have time to see the cliffs, to go for walks, to go trekking, to experience the Mahenya community, the village, maybe some palm wine tapping. So I would say 5 nights is a sweet spot.
I believe we had our clients there for 4 nights. And just to sort of fit it in there, for one more thing, it sort of misses the point, in my opinion. That's the kind of expertise that clients are coming to us for, is to say, this is what you need to do. So I know it's getting to be dark there in Chilo. So the last question is, what's the future vision for Chilo? Again, I think you brought up sustainable into the future and the goals of mentoring people at the Mahenya community, so that there's some leaders there to carry the torch.
The main thing is the benefit to the community. We've got to continue to demonstrate that conservation, coexistence with a park, etc., goes hand in hand with benefit to the community. Some folks who come will be shocked to see the sort of poverty levels that some of the villages are living in. I mean, there's a serious need to improve their livelihoods, to improve their food security, etc. So benefits goes a long way to strengthen conservation partnerships and success. And that, to me, gets back to revenue through tourism is a key factor. So I know you're trying your best, and we appreciate that. But all I'm saying as a sort of a footnote is that occupancy volumes for us means that there's more benefit and revenue that then filters back to the community, which goes a long way to strengthen their resolve to continue to cooperate and coexist with wildlife, because they can see the benefit. When those benefits start declining and becomes less and less, and they have the pressures of having to put up with elephants in their fields, it's a trade-off. Then they say it's no longer worth it.
Yeah.
We will eat the elephant, we'll take them away. We don't want them because the cost outweighs the benefit. We, the tourism industry, have got a challenge. We've got to push our volumes, we've got to push our numbers, we've got to push our revenues so that we can show them that it actually is worth their effort and investment in looking after the environment.
And Chilo Gorge is the only lodge in the area. So it's kind of all on the shoulders, right?
For this community, yes.
For this one community. And those tourism dollars that clients are paying to stay through conservation levies and portions of their stay and all of that are directly going to the community. Those tourism dollars, those occupancies mean success versus non-occupancy means the challenge. Yeah. So I want to thank you both for sharing more with us about Chilo Gorge and how we can all take part in making this a success. It's an unbelievable area and a piece of Africa that I think is so important for us to sell and know about and send clients to. So thank you again.
If you're a conservationist, deal with human pressures, then come back to your conservation issues. There's a direct link there.
Well, that's our show for today. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, I'm Karin Jones.